The scorching Nevada sun hung heavy over Belmont as Eliza Nayland hurried behind Millie's general store with a small parcel clutched tightly to her chest. Her father needed his medicine, and she was already running late. The shortcut seemed harmless enough, but deep down she knew Belmont wasn't a place where a young woman should ever let her guard down. She took 3 more steps before a gravelly voice stopped her in her tracks. "Well now, looks like we found ourselves something real pretty, boys." Eliza froze. From the shadows stepped 4 rough-looking miners. Their shirts were stained with dust and drink, their breath thick with the scent of whiskey. She recognized them instantly. High Point mine workers. They'd only been in town a few weeks, but trouble seemed to follow them like flies to rotten meat. One of them, tall with a scar slicing across his jawline, moved in front of her and blocked her path. "Excuse me," Eliza said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "I need to get home." Quote, "Your pot can wait," the scarred man replied, his tone dripping with smug certainty. "We've been working hard. Thought maybe you'd keep us company a while." "No," Eliza said sharply. "Please let me pass." The men circled closer. Their shadows stretched long on the baked earth. One stepped toward her with a grin that made her stomach twist. "We ain't askin'," he muttered. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The open road felt miles away. There were no doors nearby, no townsfolk, no escape. Fear pressed down on her chest until she could barely breathe. The shortest man with thick arms like tree trunks reached out and grabbed her wrist. "Come on, sweetheart. We just walk away." The voice cut through the heat like cold steel. Every head turned. A tall cowboy stood at the corner of the building, boots planted firm, jaw set. His hat shadowed his eyes, but even from a distance Eliza could see the danger written across his expression. His hand hovered near the gun at his hip, relaxed, but ready. The scarred miner growled, "Mind your business, cowboy." Quote, the strangers stepped forward, slow and steady. "I am," he replied. "The lady doesn't want company, so here's what you do. You walk away, or—" He tilted his chin just slightly. "You face me." A thick tension settled in the air. 4 against 1. The red-faced miner laughed. "You out of your mind? You think you can take all of us?" The cowboy didn't blink. "Son," he said calmly, "you're worse at counting than you look. It's 4 against 2 now." Eliza looked at him in confusion, until his eyes found hers. A silent message passed between them. "Stand tall." The scarred miner scowled and reached slowly toward the knife at his belt. "You picked the wrong fight, stranger." "No," the cowboy said, his voice dropping low. "You did." With one smooth motion he shifted his coat aside. A badge glinted in the sun, a silver star. The men froze. "Marshal Isaac Northrop." He introduced himself, never looking away from them. "And I recommend you find somewhere else to spend your day." For a long moment nobody moved. Then the scarred miner spat at the dirt. "Come on, boys," he snapped. "Ain't worth it." But before leaving he leaned close to Eliza. "For now," he whispered darkly. Then they disappeared. Only when they were gone did the marshal turn fully toward her. "You hurt, miss?" Eliza shook her head, though her hands trembled. "No, thank you. I don't know what would have." "You don't need to," he said gently. He removed his hat, revealing dark hair and storm-gray eyes. "I'm here now." She swallowed, finally finding her breath. "Eliza Nayland," she said softly. "My father owns the apothecary." He shook her hand with surprising gentleness. "A pleasure to meet you, Miss Nayland. Though I'd rather the circumstances were different." Eliza managed a small, shaky smile. "As would I." Isaac glanced in the direction the miners had gone. "They won't be your last trouble," he said, "but I'll handle them." Then he looked back at her, and something in his expression softened. "May I escort you home?" Quote, relief washed over her. "Yes," she whispered. "I'd appreciate that." They began walking toward Main Street. Her heart still raced, but now for a different reason. One she didn't dare admit even to herself. She had never met a man like him, and she had no idea how much her life had just changed. Eliza's steps were small and careful, as she walked beside Marshal Isaac Northrop toward her father's apothecary. The town seemed louder than usual, as if every voice, bootstep, and wagon wheel echoed her fear and her curiosity about the man beside her. Isaac walked with quiet confidence, his gaze sweeping every alley and doorway. Not once did he seem distracted. Not once did he lower his guard. "You said you've just arrived?" she asked, trying to calm her racing heart. "Yesterday," he replied. "The territory assigned me here after Marshal Jenkins retired." "He wasn't much of a lawman," Eliza said before she could stop herself. Isaac's mouth lifted in a faint smile. "So I've heard." They reached the apothecary door and Isaac stopped, tipping his hat. "I'll check on those men later," he said. "They won't bother you again." Eliza hesitated, then asked softly, "How can you be sure?" Quote, Isaac's storm-gray eyes held hers, "Because next time, it won't be a warning." For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Eliza nodded. "Thank you, Isaac." His brows lifted slightly at the use of his name, and something warm flickered in his expression. "You're welcome, Eliza." He turned and walked away, each step steady, as if nothing could shake him. But Eliza stood at the door long after he was gone, breath unsteady, heart full of questions she wasn't ready to ask. That evening, Belmont buzzed with news faster than wind through canyon walls. By nightfall, everyone knew the new marshal had faced down trouble behind the general store, and that Eliza Nayland had been the one in danger. Some whispered with sympathy, some with curiosity, some with envy, and some, like the owners of Emily's saloon, looked nervous, knowing trouble wasn't finished. The next day, while Eliza swept the apothecary floor, the shop door opened, and Isaac stepped inside. Her breath caught. He looked different in daylight, no longer just a dangerous figure in shadow, but a man with sharp cheekbones, steady eyes, and a quiet strength that filled the room. "Good afternoon," he greeted. Eliza tried to behave normally, but her voice betrayed her. "Hello, Marshal." "Isaac," he corrected gently. She nodded. "Isaac." He folded his arms, leaning casually against the counter. "I wanted to check if you're all right." "I'm fine," she said, though her hands still trembled slightly. He noticed. "Fear doesn't make you weak," he said softly. "It makes you human." Eliza swallowed. "My father always said the same." "He sounds like a wise man." She smiled faintly. "He is, though he's unwell. That medicine I was carrying yesterday, it's for him." Isaac's expression softened. "I'm sorry." Before she could respond, the bell jingled again, and a woman rushed in. Mrs. Peabody, the loudest source of gossip in Belmont. "Well, well," she said loudly, staring between them. "Our new marshal acquainted himself with our sweet Eliza already." Eliza flushed with embarrassment. Isaac remained calm. "Ma'am?" he said politely. Mrs. Peabody leaned close to Eliza and whispered, loud enough for Isaac to hear, "He asked you to dinner yet?" Quote, Eliza nearly dropped her broom. Isaac's jaw tensed. But then, to her shock, he spoke. "Actually," he said evenly, "I was going to ask." Mrs. Peabody gasped with delight. Eliza stared at him, wide-eyed. Isaac continued, voice steady but low. "I'm new to town. I could use a guide. Would you join me at the Belmont Hotel tomorrow evening?" Silence stretched. Eliza's heart pounded. "Yes," she finally whispered. Mrs. Peabody clapped her hands. "Oh, how exciting!" Isaac tipped his hat and stepped back toward the door. "Tomorrow at 7?" Eliza nodded. 7. Before leaving, he paused, and his voice dropped so only she could hear. "And Eliza?" "Yes." "You handled yesterday braver than most." Then he walked out, leaving her breathless. That night, as she brushed her hair before bed, Eliza replayed every moment, his calm voice, his protective stance, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. Her father noticed. "You're smiling," he said gently from his chair. She touched her cheek, surprised. "Am I?" He chuckled. "It's been a while." Eliza exhaled slowly. "Pa, something happened yesterday." She told him everything, the danger, the marshal, the invitation. Her father listened, eyes thoughtful. When she finished, he spoke quietly. "Eliza, sometimes life sends the right person at the right moment." She didn't reply, but deep inside, something in her heart agreed. The next evening came faster than she expected. She stood in her mirror in her best blue dress, smoothing the fabric nervously. Her heart thudded like a runaway horse. A knock sounded downstairs. Her breath caught. Isaac had arrived. And neither of them knew that what started as protection would turn into something deeper, something neither expected and neither could stop. Because sometimes fate hides behind danger, and sometimes love begins with 4 men, a shadowed alley, and one quiet warning. Walk away. Or face me. Wait, before we move on, what do you think about the story so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to know. The Belmont Hotel dining room glowed with soft lamplight as Isaac stood when Eliza entered. For a moment, the world around them quieted. His eyes softened the second he saw her, and Eliza felt her breath catch under the weight of his gaze. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice low and sincere. Eliza blushed as she took the seat he pulled out for her. "Thank you. And you look quite presentable, Marshal." He gave a small smile, the kind that reached his eyes. They ordered dinner, and soon the nervousness faded as conversation flowed easily. They talked about Belmont, about her father, about Isaac's travels and his years serving as a marshal. But halfway through the meal, Isaac's tone shifted slightly. "I need to ask, did those men bother you again?" "No," Eliza replied. "They've kept their distance." Isaac nodded, but his jaw tightened, and she understood. He wasn't relieved. He was waiting, planning, protecting. After dinner, Isaac walked her home beneath a sky glittering with stars. The streets were quiet, but Isaac stayed alert, one hand near his holster. When they reached the apothecary steps, Eliza paused. "Thank you for tonight," she said softly. "It was wonderful." Isaac tipped his hat. "I'd like to see you again, if you'd allow it." Eliza didn't hesitate. "I'd like that." A breath escaped him, almost like relief. "Good night, Eliza." "Good night, Isaac." He stayed until she was safely inside, then turned away, shoulders squared, already back in martial mode. But what neither of them knew was that 4 angry men watched from a dark alley nearby, and their patience had just run out. The next morning, Belmont woke to whispers. Someone broke the windows at the apothecary. Someone carved a warning into the wood. "Stay quiet, O.R. Pay." Eliza stood frozen before the broken glass, the words carved beside the door making her stomach twist. Her father gripped her shoulder. "Eliza, go find Isaac. Now." She didn't argue. She ran. Isaac was already walking up the street, having heard the news. The second he saw the damage, his eyes darkened. "They think fear will stop me," he said quietly. "They're wrong." "Isaac," Eliza whispered, trembling. "They could hurt someone." "They already did," he replied, meeting her eyes. "They frightened you." Something thick and unspoken passed between them. "Come inside," she said softly. "Please." They stepped into the shop, and Isaac checked every window and entrance. When everything was secured, he turned to her. "Eliza, listen to me." Her heart pounded. "I shouldn't have brought danger to your door," he said, "but I can't and won't walk away." She stepped closer. "I don't want you to." His breath caught, not from fear, but from something deeper. "Eliza." A knock pounded on the door, startling them both. Isaac moved first. When he opened the door, the scarred miner stood there, alone, but smiling a cold, cruel smile. "Mornin', Marshal." Isaac's voice dropped to steel. "You're trespassing." The miner shrugged. "Just thought I'd warn you. Tonight won't be as friendly as last time." Isaac stepped forward, and for the first time, the miner flinched. "You come near her again," Isaac said, voice calm, but full of fire, "and there won't be a next time." The miner backed up, but kept smirking. "We'll see." He turned and left. Eliza exhaled shakily. "Isaac, what are you going to do?" His answer was simple. "Finish this." Night fell heavy over Belmont. Most lamps were out, and the streets lay quiet under the moonlight. But Isaac knew the quiet wasn't peace. It was preparation. He waited behind Mamely's store, the same place where everything started. Footsteps approached. 4 shadows stepped into the moonlight, weapons drawn. The scarred one sneered. "You gonna run, Marshal?" Isaac shook his head. "No, I'm gonna end this." The first man rushed him. The gunshot echoed through the night. Isaac moved with trained precision, disarming one, knocking another off his feet. 2 more charged, the scarred miner among them. It was fierce, rough, violent, but Isaac didn't waver. When the final blow landed, the scarred miner crashed to the dirt, wind knocked from his lungs. Isaac stood over him, breathing hard but steady. "This town isn't yours," he said, "and she isn't yours to threaten." Deputy McNail and 2 townsmen arrived, having waited nearby on Isaac's orders. The 4 miners were dragged away, cursing, defeated. Belmont finally exhaled. Isaac wiped a streak of blood from his cheek and headed toward the only place his heart pulled him. Eliza's light was still on. She opened the door before he even knocked. Her eyes widened when she saw him, tired, bruised, but alive. "It's over," he whispered. Without hesitation, she rushed forward and threw her arms around him. He held her tight, as if losing her had become unthinkable. After a long moment, he pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "Eliza," he said, voice soft but sure, "I didn't expect you. I didn't plan any of this. But I know one thing." Her breath trembled. "What's that?" "I want a future with you. If you'll have me." Tears filled her eyes, not from fear this time, but from something fierce and hopeful. "Yes," she whispered, "I want that too." Isaac gently lifted her hand and pressed a kiss against her knuckles. "You changed everything the moment you stood in that alley," he murmured. "And you changed mine the moment you walked into it," she replied. They stood there under the quiet glow of lantern light, hearts steady, danger gone, future unfolding. A future that began with courage, with kindness, with one man who refused to look away, and one woman brave enough to believe in him.